We're here in beautiful Manoa, the university, and I'm Patricia Shihei, Dr. Patricia Shihei, but mostly I go by Patricia Shihei. And this is my significant other, Patrick, and we're here to talk about collaboration and how we've been effective at collaborating both with family members and also with other school personnel. I thought to start with, we talk a little bit about our backgrounds and our family life. Pat, do you want to start?
We have 10 children. Um, I don't know how old the oldest one is, but I know the youngest one is 16 now. And Tom, the one that if you read that article about, was number 1 for us.
Good remembering. And Tom was born with a significant disability, as you remember from reading the article, and a lot of our collaboration had to do with Tom. But we also have worked closely with teachers and other paraprofessionals and personnel within the teaching profession and as family members. So with all of our children. So I thought I'd talk a little bit, I'd ask Patrick maybe some questions regarding his experiences in education. Why don't you tell him a little bit about how long you've been teaching and the different types of education that you've been involved in?
Okay. Besides being the parent of our children, I also have been teaching school for a long time. I taught general education courses for 25 years and special ed for 10 years. And in those experiences, there's been a lot of collaboration both with parents and with professionals within the classroom, and also with families that we've been involved with, that I have and Patricia, because for a period of time, the two of us worked together in a preschool setting, and that was a very, very interesting experience.
Collaborating with another teacher can be different and sometimes more difficult than collaborating with family members or other professionals, because you're both totally on the same level as far as your background information, your knowledge, and maybe your expertise. But it's learning how to share that expertise with each other and ensuring that your style will interact well with the other person's style. But from a family perspective, Pat, could you tell them a little bit about your involvement in any kind of partnerships or collaboration with the schools when Tom was alive?
Part of the difficulty for a lot of times fathers in families that have children with disabilities is that we work. And most of the meetings that were held for Tom, I was not involved in because I was teaching school at the time. I don't know if there was any solution to that, because most of us work during the course of the day when those meetings are held, and it's impossible then to sit down at that meeting and have any input. Most of what would come from Patricia, who would either bring the IEPs home or the materials home that we would look at and discuss.
And from my perspective, it was difficult because I didn't get to have that support of another person in the family who knew Tom as well as I did to be there at the meeting with me. I often brought all my other children, so when I had the youngest child, there would probably be 8 young children at an IEP meeting, which was very kind of disconcerting for me. I wasn't able to concentrate as much as perhaps I should have. Some of the really good things that I consider that occurred in the IEPs, and this was in California, and of course realizing that an IEP meeting is a collaborative meeting, it's a partnership, everybody's an equal player, but being there alone and not having the expertise, the knowledge background that the teachers and the other professionals have, was can be uh, difficult for a parent to maybe make their own suggestions. However, at our meetings, I never had an IEP meeting that my son's teacher did not come out to the house first and do a home visit. And I was willing to have them out. It usually again occurred when Patrick wasn't available. That home visit provided them with an opportunity to see Tom in his home environment with his siblings around, and then for me to be able to relax and really talk to them about what I wanted, my priorities for Tom. At the meeting, the IEP had never been developed prior to the meeting. And I used to wonder why it took them so long to write it all out. No computers in those days. And now, and of course, after when I went back to school, I realized that that's the way it should be done. It should be done at the time of the meeting and not written up prior. So I really admire the teachers that Tom had, that they took the time to come out and see me and see Tom, and then to truly involve us in writing up the IEP. They didn't come with a draft already written. So that part was really good. The bad part was that I was alone and Patrick wasn't there. So we weren't able to ever get his ideas on what should be worked on, what the focus of Tom's goals and objectives.
Yeah, can I just add too that in my experience as a teacher, that oftentimes even if fathers have the time, that they may not necessarily feel knowledgeable enough to throw their 2 cents in, that there's speaking as a parent and then as a teacher at an IEP meeting, you feel somewhat inadequate at times because the people that are, I hate to say it, but kind of represent the other side have so much more knowledge that they're coming from. The knowledge base is much broader. So that in itself is intimidating. I think positioning at an IEP meeting is significant for collaboration. One does not place the administrator, the special ed teacher, the general ed teacher, and then the other related service providers on one side, as so often happens, and then the parent who sits alone on the other side. It doesn't lend itself for communication or collaboration.
I think one thing is that I never realized in going through this whole process that it was a collaborative partnership. It was never explained to me that my input was valued, that I actually had resources that I could provide to this conversation. They listened to me, and for the most part I felt that they heard what I had said and they tried to implement some of my ideas. But it was never explained to me that this is truly a meeting and we are partners here. Sometimes at the school level, there's other relationships that are formed between families and professionals. I used to go in and help out in his classroom, and I think that there are times when I would get confused as far as, what kind of a partnership is this? What is my role when I come into the classroom? And definitely at that time, it's not a collaborative partnership, that I was under the direction of the teacher. And I think that it's important for teachers to realize that there are times when you engage in collaboration and then there are times when you don't, and that's okay. Many times as a parent, I wanted somebody to tell me and to show me what to do, especially when I was in the classroom or when I needed to engage in different activities like the actual physical therapy with Tom. I know in the article I stated that I never felt comfortable being his teacher, and part of that was because it wasn't explained to me and I was supposed to be doing something that I was not trained to do. So that wasn't collaboration, and it shouldn't have been collaboration. It wasn't ever meant to be a collaborative relationship.
I think part of the difficulty lies in the word collaboration itself. I prefer the word partnership. It has a better connotation for me. the word collaborator has a negative connotation. So I get a more positive sense when I think of people working together, partnering up for the benefit of the child. The focus is always on the child. And if we keep the focus on the child, then the animosities and the distrust and all of those negative elements that can sometimes become a part of the IEP process can be minimized. There has to be really trust established to begin with. Trust from the teacher to the parent, trust for the service providers, and trust, although it's difficult to have, for the administrator too, who represents the powers that be, the ones that can authorize the services that your child might need.
That's so funny that you talked about a negative connotation for collaboration, because I had a guest speaker, Susan Rocco, who's been in the field of special education. She has a child with autism who's 28 years old, and she doesn't like the term collaboration because for her, and she's about your age, it was something that you did with the enemy during World War II. So she prefers partnership to collaboration. And I'm not sure what the difference is. To me, I think of a partnership as mostly between two people, partners, like a dancing partner. There's only two of you. But I don't think that necessarily is true. I do think that the key element is trust. I totally agree with you. And then I wanted to ask you a question regarding when that trust has been broken, when there's a time when you either inherit as a teacher a family or a parent who has had a difficult time and now is not trusting. Do you have any suggestions or kind of tools that you have used in that situation?
That's happened several times during the course of my teaching career. Either I inherited a situation with a child where there was a lack of trust, and the one principle that you can follow is to be totally honest with a parent. Don't try and hide something unpleasant, especially if you're trying to reestablish a good communication with a parent. Be totally honest with that parent, even if it means that you have to admit you made a mistake. There are worse things than making mistakes. The parents generally feel better about it if you own up to the fact that for whatever reason for example, one time I mixed up the communication tablets to go home. And that was a bad thing to have happened. But if you apologize and just try and seek to mend those fences, then occasionally you'll have success. Other times you won't. It just depends a lot on the situation.
Yeah. I think that once the trust has been broken in any kind of relationship, it can be extremely difficult to repair. And I agree that open communication, open and honest communication, no matter how difficult that may be, is essential. I think I found that if you can somehow get to know the person on a personal level, if you can share a story or something that maybe the child has done, bring the child back to the center and share some anecdotal information or just a funny story that the child has done or some success that the child has done, to help build that, help the parents see that you do have faith in the child and you see the good in the child and you know that there's a future for the child and for the relationship, that can help mend that trust to some degree. And then there was something else I was going to say, but it's totally gone. I think that educators hear a lot about the difficulties of working with some of the challenging parents. And depends sometimes in the situation that you're in, the field, the type of classroom that you're in, the disability type of students that you tend to be working with can play a role in that. But I think that also, like what you said about admitting your mistakes is another key component, and keeping in touch, always being open and really communicating with that parent. And sometimes you have to, maybe your style of interacting is not one of being really open and honest. Maybe you tend to be the person, like I tend to be, I want everything to be rosy, so I tend to just pretend like everything's fine. Oh no, it's okay, it's okay. And yet you need to put that style of interaction aside and really assume this role of being open and honest. And I think that it can be really difficult from people from different cultural backgrounds that tend to maybe not want to bring that up. They want the context of the feelings or the innuendos, the body language to say it, instead of them coming right out and saying, being open and honest and stating things, stating what it is.
I would say, in conclusion, from my perspective, having sat in on well over 300 IEP meetings in the past, that 99% of the interactions and the opportunities that I had to meet and talk with parents were very positive. The problem is the 1% that we sometimes have, because they're negative, tend to on occasion dominate. But by far and away, trust parents and trust your own instincts with them, and keep the child at the center.
Right. I was at a school today and used the restroom, and in the restroom there were all these quotes and pictures up. It was just fantastic, and I found this one that says, "One does not see anything until one sees its beauty," by Oscar Wilde. So if you're in a relationship with a family or a parent, always start with seeing the beauty of that relationship and the beauty of the child and the family members, and you can't go wrong.
Good.
So thank you.